Hello, everybody. My name is O'Neill Gerald Donald, and you're listening to the Reclaim Your Voice podcast, the Reclaim Your Voice podcast, where we set the stage for your voice to be at its greatest potential. We take the time to change your singing from unsure to unforgettable. We give you the tools to stop losing your voice, break your bad singing habits, and find your unique sound. I'm here to enlighten you about your voice journey and give you some tidbits, some nuggets, some information that will help you to really transition to where you want to be. And I wanted to zoom in on a particular phrase that I mentioned in the beginning of our journey together on this podcast. When I talked about who this podcast was for, I talked about people who secretly believe that they can't sing. And this entire episode is for you. If you believe that if you secretly believe that you can't sing, as in you're a singer and you actually believe this, even though people say that you can sing, then this is for you. And if people have actually told you that you can't sing, then this is also for you. I really feel strongly and very passionate about this statement because I feel like it actually steps out of the bounds of whoever's saying it is actually stepping outside of their boundaries and heading into the life of someone else and robbing them of their singing. I can't stand it. So that's part of the why I'm creating this episode. But also, we in our own selves, whether it's because we made a mistake or whether it's because we keep making the same mistake, have the tendency to say you can't sing to ourselves. We tend to be our own worst critic and say that to ourselves. And so whether it's us saying that we can't, whether it's us, saying that we can't sing and thus we don't sing at all. It could also mean that we don't use particular parts of our range. This statement, you can't sing, has so many different ways that it can show up, or the effects of it can show up in somebody else's life. And so I wanted to take the time to give you 5 reasons why the statement, you can't sing, isn't true. Just plain and simple isn't true. And I'm very passionate, so I'm gonna get into it with reason number 1. The first reason why the statement "you can't sing" isn't true is because singing well is not the only singing that counts. I'll say that again. Singing well is not the only singing that counts. I think that especially in a world that is very aesthetically pleasing, I feel like whether it's sounds or whether it's sights, we're getting very much used to presentations and packages that are perfect. Whether it be photography, photoshopping, and touching up photos, whether it be auto-tune and listening to voices that are perfectly in tune, are the package that we hear. And let's even just focus on the vocal side. We're used to hearing voices in perfect packages. And because of that, the standard of what it means to be a professional singer has gotten higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. And I'm not saying that standard isn't, that we shouldn't have a standard, but the standard that we're beginning to see is a level of perfection that doesn't actually exist. Whether it be just notes, and just notes that are in pitch, that are out of pitch. Now, there's a difference between actually working to get a great and perfect recording. There's a difference with that. But we're hearing voices that are literally robots, right? There are people who sound completely different from the recordings, not because they're of a vocal situation that they've put themselves in that's different from the studio, but simply because the studio changed their voice. Their voice is completely different than what the actual than what they actually did in the studio. And this singing standard has made it, or rather, this standard of perfection has made us so intolerant to sounds that are not necessarily perfect, right? And especially for singers that are in the professional world and may not necessarily have a perfect sound and they're looking to improve their singing. it's almost as if singing well is the only singing that counts. And if someone doesn't sing well, or if someone sang something wrong, or if someone had a bad performance, we immediately say that person can't sing, right? And that's completely and utterly preposterous. It's and not just preposterous, but ridiculous. Just because someone has a bad day and someone has a bad performance doesn't mean that they can't sing. And even with this first point, let me just let's just establish this. Singing well is not the only singing that counts. Like we're saying in this point, like like I feel like when it comes to hearing people sing, we say, oh my gosh, that person can sing, when we say that they're actually singing well, right? When someone sings poorly, we say to them, oh yeah, you can't sing. You can't do this. You can't do that. When actually that person's singing, but they're singing poorly. Singing is on a spectrum of great to poor singing, but everything that is on that spectrum is still singing. I'm telling you. Right, so there's a level of robbery that we've done in only giving singing to the people that can do it well, and so the people that want to sing and sometimes are even called to sing are actually on the poor singing side. But because everyone's telling them that they can't sing, they're never really inspired to improve. Ed Sheeran is a really great example. I remember there was what was it? He was on some late night show and he played an early clip of him singing. He was not that great. He was a great songwriter at the time, but he wasn't that great of a singer. But he gave himself the space to improve and gave himself the permission to sing. He didn't say you can't sing. He said to himself, you can sing and let's improve, right? The singing can only be improved by actually singing, but by actually singing. You don't learn how to sing by not singing. And that actually kind of bleeds into another point. I might as well go straight there. People that sing well didn't start by singing well. They learned. At whatever age they did, they learned. And you just need to create an environment to learn. Like when it comes to singing well, like everyone thinks that, people are born with a musical gift and they are singing right out of the womb. When in reality, babies learn, like whether you learned as a child or whether you learned as a baby or whatever, there was a learning process that came with singing. Now, like that gave people the voices that they have, or gave people the ability to use their voices that they have. Now, some people do a lot of their learning early. Some people do a lot of their learning in their formative years. A lot of people, and not just people do learning in their formative years in terms of singing. A lot of people have environments where they can actually learn to sing because they're actually singing all the time. Like, for me, I'm a church kid, so getting to church every single week and having 30 minutes to an hour where the entire congregation is singing, that like you get to learn, and in what really is a choral setting where everyone's singing at the same time, so you never really put on the spot by yourself, and so you're given the ability to learn, right? And you're even expected to sing. But some people don't necessarily have those upbringings. But when we say to somebody you can't sing, what we're doing is we're cutting off their ability to learn, right? And I want you to take all of this not just as someone saying this to somebody that is a poor singer, but if you are a singer and you're somebody that is even in the professional world, singing at shows, etc., and so forth, this is stuff that we can say to ourselves, right? This is stuff that we can say to ourselves, and we say, oh yeah, you can't sing. And we may not say you can't sing, but we might be like, oh my gosh, you hit that note terribly. Don't ever do that again, right? And we create these inner vows within ourselves that keep us from actually reaching to our voice's full potential. And the reason why we're not reaching is because we've already told ourselves that we can't sing. Right? And again, it may not sound like those exact 3 words, but you can't sing takes on many, many different forms. It can take on the form of just cringing and just, just abhorring, and abhorring is such an old word, but just avoiding and pushing back on anything that is not perfect, right? And especially for singers that are looking to be organically good and not necessarily adjust their voice in any way in the studio, you have to be able to embrace the times when you're not singing as well in order for you to actually improve. But in this society, we're not really embracing learning. We just want people to be amazing from the jump, when in reality, people need to be given the space to learn. And we also have to be real with the fact that not everybody learns when they're 5 years old. Some people learn when they're 15. Some people learn when they're 25. Some people learn when they're 35, 45. At whatever age at whatever age, people should be given the permission to learn. We have people that are going back to school in like their 60s to learn different things that they wanted to learn in university, right? Like, there is space to learn if you would simply give yourself the space. But if we don't give ourselves the space to learn and don't give other people the space to learn, then nobody is going to actually take the plunge and actually learn how to sing, because singing is for the club of people that are magically gifted to sing their hearts out, when that's not really the truth, right? Now, my third point, my third reason why you can't sing isn't true is because you have a voice. Now, I love this one because it really just kind of digs into our design as humans. As humans, everyone is given a voice, right? It would be different if every single person in the world was given a piano, right? Not everyone in the world is given a piano at birth, right? So not all of us play piano. But every single person in the world is given a voice. And by that I mean, we don't like, people who play instruments aren't born with their instruments in hand, right? They go out and they learn those musical instruments. But all of us that are able to speak have been given an instrument that is our vocal folds, or like our ability to use our voices. And sure, we can use it to speak, but every single person that is speaking, and that is a majority of the world, has the ability to use their voice in a musical way, right? Why would we be given such a gift if we weren't meant to use it? Right. And one thing that I love to pull from is also the Bible, because the Bible actually has all over it encouragements for humans to sing every single place, like in so many different ways. People are just commanded to sing because we all can do it, right? We like someone that was born 2,000 years ago or 4,000 years ago couldn't play an electric guitar because they didn't have an electric car, but they could sing because they had a voice, right? Like, having a voice, just simply having it, is such a privilege and a joy that if you really dug into really the reasoning and really just kind of focused on the fact that you have a voice, like, that in itself gives you the permission to use it however you want to express yourself, right? And singing is definitely one of those different things. And I guess that one kind of speaks for itself, because it's like, why would you not use what you were given? It makes more sense to use it than to not use it. And of course, people use their voices to communicate. But again, all you have to do in order to sing is just change the use and just begin singing a song that you love, or singing something that reminds you of something, right? Singing is singing is a musical act that is innately a part of us, right? Even if you want to speak technically, our voices and our speaking voices are actually songs, if you think of it. Like, I may not necessarily be singing notes up and down, but I may not necessarily be singing specific notes when I'm speaking, but I am speaking at different notes and pitches. If I held out those pitches that I was singing at, they would be musical notes, right? Singing is a regular part of our communication, right? How much more should we give ourselves the permission to use our voices in a musical way? and then my fourth point, we talked about singing well is not the only singing that counts. People that sing didn't start by singing well; they learned. We talked about us having a voice, and I want to talk about the fact that you like singing. Now, here's the thing. Unfortunately, a lot of us have been traumatized by the singing police, the people that are, I guess, that call themselves the gatekeepers of music, who are musically adept and complete virtuosos, and they can do anything with their voices, and therefore they have the authority and ability to tell everybody else what to do. And we're going to talk about them in a little bit, but a lot of us have been traumatized by those type of people who have said, oh no, you can't sing. And so we shut ourselves down, and as a result of that trauma. But in reality, if you were to go back to before that, if you chances are you actually do like singing, and you actually liked singing before the trauma. Like if there wasn't a traumatic experience on the other side of singing, or if there was a potential for a traumatic experience on the other side of singing, such as somebody rejecting your voice and saying that you can't sing, I think a lot more people would sing more unapologetically. But because of that possibility of being rejected, that possibility of being shut down, so many people go silent. And they don't use what God's given them simply because of that fear of being rejected. And a lot of people parade that fear, or they wear that fear because they've been rejected before, their voice has been rejected before. But if you go to before that rejection happened, you actually liked singing. Especially if you're listening this far into this podcast, you liked singing, right? And the fact that we like singing and we have a desire to do it, right? It's not something that hurts anybody. It's not something that's wrong, right? Singing is one of the few things that it's hard to even morally put something on it. There are countries where there are certain songs that are banned, etc., and so forth. But singing generally is something that's pretty morally neutral, right? And so everyone should just be given the permission to like singing. And it's okay to like it. But what's happened is that a lot of people have been told that they can't sing, and so they say that they don't like it, but what they're really doing is just recounting the trauma that they've experienced, and so they don't like singing. But actually they like singing, but they just don't want to experience the rejection, right? And I think that separating those two is a very important piece. Which brings me to the last point. And we talked a little bit about the voice police before, but I wanted to kind of zoom in on them another time. The last reason why the phrase "you can't sing" isn't true is because the person that policed your voice isn't there 24 hours a day, right? So the person that caused that trauma, like for those of you that might have sung in choir, for those of you that might have been in I don't know, that you might have done a talent show and you were told, you know what, your voice is okay, and not even okay, but some people have said, your voice is terrible, or your voice is this, or your voice is that. Let's say, yes, that experience was valid. Yes, that experience happened, but should it control you for the rest of your life? Is that person that initially rejected your voice, are they there 24 hours a day? Right? Chances are they aren't. Chances are you may not even speak to that person anymore. Right? But what we've done is we've allowed ourselves to be controlled by those prior experiences. And even specifically speaking to professional singers, we've allowed moments where our voice was rejected to control the way that we express ourselves, the way that we use our voice, right? And it makes absolutely no sense for someone who is currently far away from you to control your life and dictate the way that you express yourself. And that's the reason why I've really committed myself to helping you reclaim your voice, because it's not enough to just walk through life unfulfilled because you're not doing what you've been called to do this entire time. And here's the thing. If you're listening this far in this podcast, right, maybe you're being slightly entertained by my mannerisms and my the way that I talk. But most likely, if you're listening to this far in the podcast, you really identify with what I'm saying. And you're probably in that cage of just wanting to allow yourself to use your voice to its fullest potential. And that's why I've actually created time for you to be able to speak with me and take some time to just look at where you're at with your voice, to talk to the Reclaim Your Voice team, and just really start the process of getting your voice back and allowing your voice to be a tool of your own use, and not just something that is controlled by whether or not somebody wants you to use it or not. So I want you to go to reclaimyourvoice.ca/call and book a call with me, and specifically a voice breakthrough call, because there we're going to be able to talk to you a little bit about the steps that we can take to getting you from where you are currently vocally, and even specifically where you are in rejecting your own voice and rejecting your own singing, to actually using your voice in a way that is personally affirming and edifying, and in a way that is edifying and personally affirmational affirming to others. Right? Because you didn't just get your voice just to use it and just kind of sing in the shower. Singing is meant to be shared. Singing is meant to be something that is experienced on a mutual level with multiple people, right? And especially if you're called to be a singer, your voice is meant to impact people with a message. And so I want you to go to reclaimyourvoice.ca/call, book a call with me, and let's take your singing from unsure to unforgettable. You can sing. You can sing. This is not a matter of, will or won't, should or shouldn't. And it's not a matter of can't. It's only can, right? You can sing, you should sing, right? And you know that. So I want you to get on a call with me. Let's talk, and let's help you reclaim your voice at reclaimyourvoice.ca/call. Anyway, this is the little conversation that I wanted to have with you this week. But thank you for sticking it out with me. Thank you for being willing to hear something a little different than what you've heard all of this time. And what I would like you to do is to follow and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to this. And I definitely want you to just reclaim your voice. So I will see you, or I did it again. Gosh, we're going to get this right. But I will talk to you in the next episode of the Reclaim Your Voice podcast. All right. Talk to you later. Bye, everyone.